All-Star Western. Number 10. March 1971. Jonah Hex. A cold-blooded killer, a man without feeling or conscience. Jonah rides into town on horseback, dragging two of the raiders tied to his saddle, but they aren't alive. Onlookers react with a mix of awe and fear. A curious boy tries to get a better look, but his mother pulls him back, saying it's no sight for a child. Inside a town office, Jonah Hex demands a $200 payment for the two raiders he brought in. The businessmen nervously acknowledge they saw him arrive and praise his effectiveness, stating that every business in town pitched in for his services. One of them informs Jonah that 3 more of Big Jim's raiders arrived about 20 minutes earlier and are now across the road in a saloon. Jonah sees this as convenient, joking that it saves him the trouble of tracking them down. Another warns that the raiders likely saw Jonah riding in and might be preparing an ambush. Calmly, Jonah notes they missed their chance. They should have attacked first. Now, he says, the advantage is his. As Jonah strides out, one man mutters nervously that just being near him causes chills. Minutes later, Jonah Hex quietly enters a saloon by way of a dance hall girl's upstairs room. He sternly warns her to stay quiet or risk having her face rearranged, insisting he means no harm, just passing through. As Jonah emerges on the upper balcony, he finds the raiders gathered below, facing the wrong direction. Drawing both pistols, he calls out to them from above. Gunfire erupts as Jonah fires with precision, taking down 2 of the surprised raiders instantly. Amid the chaos, the third raider panics and flees, bolting out the saloon door in terror. Hex pursues the fleeing raider like a predator, drawing his gun mid-chase. As he's about to fire, a young boy suddenly runs into his path, causing Jonah to miss. Enraged, Jonah scolds the boy, who retorts defiantly, warning Jonah not to touch him or his paw will retaliate. Jonah tells him off sharply, warning that his behavior could get them both killed. As the boy walks away, Jonah reflects that the kid showed the courage of a grown grizzly. Jonah then heads outside, where onlookers stand gawking. Frustrated, he yells at them to clear out, calling them donkey-faced idiots and demanding space to regroup. As townsmen gather, they inform Jonah Hex that his recent kills earned him another $200. Jonah says he'll collect later. Right now, he's picking up his horse and tracking the raider who escaped. He suspects the fugitive might lead him to Big Jim himself. One man comments that if Jonah succeeds, the whole gang could be wiped out. At the blacksmith's, Jonah finds his horse in distress. The blacksmith tries to explain, but Jonah, clearly suspecting mistreatment, punches him unconscious with a single blow. Bystanders are stunned at how fast it happened. One marvels that Jonah floored him with just one punch, while another says the blacksmith is lucky Jonah didn't kill him, as Jonah likely wouldn't have hesitated. At a cabin miles from town, Big Jim berates Cody for letting Jonah Hex outgun 3 of them. Cody, shaken, says Jim never faced Hex himself and describes the fear Hex's eyes invoke. Jim dismisses it, claiming Jonah just has a scarred face, nothing more. But Cody insists Hex is more than human. Jim sarcastically calls Hex a demon, then orders Cody to fetch water from the well to make coffee. Cody hesitates, afraid to go outside. Jim forces him, pointing out the well isn't inside. Cody obeys, still uneasy, and steps into the darkness with the water bucket and remarks that no one has ever found their hideout, but his uncertainty lingers. While drawing water from the well, Cody thinks about fleeing come morning. He recalls Big Jim's plan to scare people into selling land cheaply before the railroad arrives, until Jonah Hex was hired. As Cody moves through the brush, a shadowy figure looms in front of him. Spooked, he drops the bucket and nervously calls out, thinking it might be Jim. But it's Jonah Hex, lighting a match with a chilling glare. Recognizing him, Cody panics and draws his gun, shouting Jonah's name. Before he can fire, Jonah shoots first, striking Cody with deadly precision. Cody, mortally wounded, struggles to call out to Big Jim from the ground, begging not to be left to die. Before Jim can respond, a sudden gunshot ends Cody's cries. An eerie silence follows. Panicked, Big Jim decides to escape through the back window, avoiding Jonah Hex, whom he believes is waiting out front. Outside, Jim spots what he thinks is Jonah, confused by how Hex could have gotten there so fast. Steeling himself, Jim opens fire wildly, but when the smoke clears, he realizes he was firing at a tree stump. Shocked, he mutters in disbelief, realizing he was duped by a decoy. Big Jim dashes for his horse. Mounting quickly, he believes he's escaped, daring Jonah Hex to try and catch him now. Riding hard through the woods, Jim reassures himself that he knows this terrain better than anyone and assumes Hex is lost in the darkness. Sometime later, after stopping to rest his weary horse, Jim feels a sense of relief as the moonlight returns. He boasts to himself that it was lucky he lost Hex when he did. But as he approaches a stream, he's frozen in horror. Silhouetted against the moon is Jonah Hex on horseback, quietly watching from above. Jim stares in disbelief, uttering, "No, it can't be." Now drenched in sweat and fear, Big Jim flees deeper into the woods, convinced Cody was right. Jonah Hex is like the devil himself. Hours pass before daylight breaks. Jim, exhausted and desperate, spots a nearby farm and sees a final chance for escape. As he approaches cautiously, he remains paranoid, certain Jonah is nearby, watching and toying with him. Just then, he spots Jonah's horse. Hex has already arrived, with the lifeless body of Cody draped over the saddle. Jim curses his luck. But Jonah is calmly seated by a grindstone, loading his weapon. Without rising or rushing, he coolly calls out, "Anytime you're ready, skunk." The confrontation is inevitable. Big Jim bursts from the farmhouse, using the boy's mother as a hostage and threatening to shoot unless Jonah drops his gun. Jonah, unfazed, calmly replies he doesn't care what happens to her. But when the boy that tripped him up earlier cries out, begging Jonah to help his ma, Jonah relents, lowering his gun as Big Jim gloats. As Big Jim turns to flee, thinking he's won, Jonah subtly reaches for a hidden knife at the back of his neck. Just as Jim makes a break for it, Jonah hurls the blade with deadly accuracy. It strikes Big Jim mid-escape, dropping him with a scream. With the fight over, Big Jim's lifeless body falls from his saddle. He turns to the young boy, offering advice. "Never show your back to a man aiming to kill ya." He then gently helps the boy carry his fainted mother inside. As they walk, Jonah remarks he's never seen a woman not pass out when trouble starts. The boy surprises him with a compliment, saying Jonah isn't as mean as he first thought. Hex asks the boy about his tough-sounding pa from yesterday, only to learn the boy has no father, just made him up. The boy then asks about Jonah visiting again. Hex, mounting up, dryly replies, "Visit you? What fer?" As Jonah Hex rides off, the boy calls after him, inviting him back for his ma's apple dumplings. Jonah hesitates, then says he's not crazy about dumplings, but he just might come back to try one. Later in town, Jonah receives his $400 payment for eliminating Big Jim and his gang. The townsmen thank him for making Paradise Corners safe again. One mentions the farm where Jonah killed Big Jim, revealing the boy's father died in an Indian raid long ago. The widow now owes $300 in back taxes, likely losing the farm. Jonah, without hesitation, hands over money and firmly tells them to make sure she keeps the property. They agree at once, surprised but compliant. Jonah Hex, perhaps testing them, casually says he's been thinking about settling down and points out a house on the edge of town he's interested in. The townsmen panic. One nervously claims the house was just sold that morning. Another quickly adds that there are no other houses for sale in the entire territory. Jonah stares at them, unimpressed, then laughs it off, saying they didn't really think he'd want to live in this stinking desert hole, did they? He says he wouldn't even want to die there. As he rides off, the men breathe a sigh of relief. One calls Hex a savage, another frets about property values, and a third says Hex should go live with his own kind. As Jonah rides toward the farm to say goodbye, a bullet narrowly misses him, blasting through his hat. He leaps from his horse and circles into the brush, tracking the shooter. To his surprise, it's the boy's mother holding the rifle. She accuses him of turning her son into a hero-worshipping fool. She calls him a murdering hellion, stating that he's not welcome. She fired the shot deliberately as a warning. Jonah, unbothered, retorts that he wasn't coming to see her or her son, then rides off coldly, declaring, "I don't like either of ya." As Jonah rides off, the boy calls to him, bindle in hand, ready to leave his mother behind. He says she's ungrateful, upset that he wants to join Jonah. Hex sharply tells him to go back to where he belongs. The boy pleads, thinking Jonah liked him. But Hex coldly snarls, "I hate you, boy, hate you like poison." Heartbroken, the boy is left behind as Jonah rides away. Soon after, Jonah reaches the edge of town and pauses by the Welcome to Paradise Corner sign, staring for a moment. He suddenly punches the sign, shattering it, riding alone into the desert, leaving the broken sign and the town behind.